I think we start with Penn State, Ohio State. Obviously, 3 versus 4, huge showdown. I was believing in Penn State. I thought they had a chance to get this done. Their defense played really, really good. Forced some turnovers. Their defense scored. They came out the gates really, really well in the football game, and I thought everything going their direction. And then they couldn't get the offense rolling. I mean, they couldn't get Ty Warren involved. They couldn't get the receivers involved. The passing game was pretty non-existent. The first catch by a tight end or wide receiver was in the 2-minute drill of the first half. Like, they've got to be better than that offensively, and still had chances to win the football game. But I thought they struggled offensively to complete a forward pass to a receiver or a tight end. Brent.
So let's think back to Wednesday, where I'm going to pat my own back a little bit on that one. First one to 20. That was the Buckeyes. And do we trust James Franklin in big games? Because you got to a point where you could tie the game. You finally get Warren involved, either throwing it to him or direct handoffs, and then you get into a goal-to-go situation and just do nothing.
Lined it up.
Absolutely
try
nothing.
to pound it between the tackles on the same spot when they've got a bunch of defensive linemen and a bunch of gaps covered. And you've got a short yardage QB on your bench that you pride yourself in using over the last couple years in these situations. That was the biggest surprise to me, because Aller's banged up. And listen, I thought Aller scrambled well, by the way. Like, even with the knee brace,
especially early.
I mean, I thought he did a good job. He would evade sacks, made plays, but Ohio State, you saw against Nebraska, man. They physically met the challenge on the goal line, got the stop. You had an opportunity to tie the football game with 6 or 7 minutes left. And it's just, man, I'd love to see Prabula at quarterback, like where I can go east-west and I can go north-south. I can do some kind of variation off of it.
Or what they had just done to get there. They gave it to 44 Warren, direct snap. I was shocked they didn't see that. It was, but when you think about just in the grand scheme of that things with that game, it's basically the same thing we've seen in those games, where one team's just more explosive and has better athletes on the outside, and we're able to make plays. And Penn State just is always, and I think if you look at the Big Ten this year, it's like, hey, if you could take Penn State's edge guys, take Nebraska's interior guys, take Illinois' receivers, and if you could put it all together in one team and maybe give them Drew Aller, things like that, then maybe you would beat Ohio State or Oregon. But outside of that, you're not really beating those teams. Now, Indiana, a different story. We're going to get to them in a little bit, but it just seemed like a carbon copy where both of these teams play each other knowing that, like, I was wanting to see more from Penn State, knowing that they kind of are undermanned athletically on the outside. And also Ohio State just like, all right, we're going to eventually win because we have more talent. It feels that way from them. But underrated play of the game, by the way, was the 3rd and 1 QB sneak after the pick 6 from Howard, because he's melting. Like, he throws it right to the DB, makes a great play, jumps on the ball.
Great play. It was an
short yardage. They've struggled mightily in short yardage all year, Ohio State, other than Judkins, I think. And then they sneak it and get it. And then they get rolling a little bit and get back in the game, eventually go score on that. I think go score on that drive. Like, outside, if they get it 3 and out there and Penn State's rolling like they were, okay, different story, but no.
There's a couple of things that stood out. First of all, Chip Kelly was worth every penny. I mean, Chip Kelly, because, listen, that offensive line for Ohio State, last year was playing left guard for this year, who's a great player, is playing left tackle. Your line is not solidified. Man, did they do an unbelievable job of getting on the edges. So, dude, it was using numbers. It was a great job of they ran speed options several times. They ran quads to one side, speed option into the boundary. Like, Chip Kelly fakes the toss after they've been going on the perimeter. He half rolls and runs leak and scores a touchdown. Like, the offensive plays they got were manufactured, and it was really, really good. A couple of things that Penn State set out with Penn State too. The daggum taunting play, man. You got a chance to get off the field. It was horrible. Like, you got a chance to get off the field. And listen, I don't think it was egregious by any stretch. I actually think it was a terrible call, because the dude had to get up and kind of step over him anyways. I hated the call, but Like, don't stare down at him and don't make it obvious. Nate Frazier runs in the end zone, does the gator chomp. Those are the things that get you beat. Ohio State goes down the field, scores a touchdown off of that. Those are little things, man. When you're elite, you don't do that in big games. And I thought that was a big time momentum killer for them. And then Penn State, I also didn't understand the defense, Brent, because it was a lot of man-to-man. But it was a lot of blown assignments with backs out of the backfield, and they got to Howard occasionally, and then they couldn't get him to the ground. Like, I don't think you want to live on an island with those Ohio State wide receivers. But if you do, you dang sure got to be buttoned up front. And several times they weren't. And the defense, listen, the defense was not the reason they lost. The defense scored. The defense only gave up 20. The defense forced turnovers. Like, they did a good job, but Penn State, they're a play or two away. Every single time they get in these situations, and James Franklin now 1-13 versus top 5 teams. And it's one more play. It's one more play, one more situation, and they're there sometimes, and when they're there, they just got to make them. And they didn't make them again, and they lose again.
And the thing for them, on the bright side for them, like the rest of their schedule, they should, I think, take care of business and be 11-1 and be in the playoffs, and you're going to be put in the same exact situation where you're going to have to make a play, and then it just depends on the matchup. But it's clear
who will Penn State's best win be?
Illinois.
Illinois goes down again today to Minnesota.
At USC.
USC, obviously, not very good. The rest of the way, they got Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. So Penn State, going to be interesting to compare resumes with maybe a Notre Dame and a loss to A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Like your resume versus them, both maybe not conference championships, both not playing for a conference championship, and who gets in.